The date is July 1977. The place is Memphis, Tennessee. Outside the gates of Graceland, the summer heat is oppressive, sticking to the skin like oil. But inside the mansion, the air is freezing cold. The king of rock and roll demands the air conditioning be kept at a constant, shivering 60 degrees. He lives in a perpetual winter of his own making. Upstairs in the master suite, a sanctuary where no one is allowed to enter without an invitation, Elvis Presley sits on the edge of his oversized bed. He is not the vibrant, hip-shaking icon the world remembers. At 42 years old, he is bloated, exhausted, and physically broken. His body is failing him. His eyes are hidden behind thick, gold-rimmed sunglasses, even in the dim light of his bedroom. But the pain he feels in this moment isn't physical. It isn't the glaucoma or the hypertension or the twisted colon that plagues him. The pain is in his hands. Shh. He is holding a manuscript, a stack of paper bound together by a simple clip. It is an advance copy of a book that is about to be published. The title on the cover reads like a judgment. Elvis, What Happened? Elvis turns the page. His hands, adorned with heavy sapphire rings, are trembling. He begins to read. The words on the page are brutal. They don't describe a legend, they describe a junkie. Paragraph after paragraph, the book details his addiction to prescription pills. It lists the Dilaudid, the Quaaludes, the Amitol. It describes scenes of a paranoid man shooting out television sets because he didn't like the singer on the screen. It paints a picture of a man who is dangerously out of control, a man losing his mind behind the velvet curtains of his ivory tower. Elvis feels the blood drain from his face. This isn't just a tabloid rumor. These stories are specific, they are intimate, they are true. He flips to the front cover again, staring at the names of the authors. This is where the knife twists. Red West, Sonny West, Dave Hebler. These names, they aren't enemies, they aren't paparazzi, they aren't strangers looking for a quick payday. Red West was his cousin. He was the man who walked into Hume's High School in 1952 and told the bullies that if they wanted to touch Elvis, they had to go through him first. Sonny West was his blood. Dave Hebler was his karate master, his protector. These men were his Memphis Mafia, his brotherhood. For 20 years, they ate at his table. They lived in the houses he bought them. They drove the Cadillacs he gifted them. They were the only people on earth Elvis trusted with his life. And now, they have done the unthinkable. They have sold him out. Elvis throws the manuscript across the room. It hits the wall with a dull thud. He picks up the phone, his fingers fumbling with the dial. He isn't angry. Anger is too simple an emotion for this. He is devastated. He sounds like a child who has been abandoned in the dark. He dials the number of a mutual friend, his voice cracking, tears streaming down his swollen face. Why? He asks, his voice barely a whisper. Why are they doing this to me? I gave them everything. I made them who they are. But there is no answer that can comfort him. The machinery is already in motion. The printing presses in New York are churning out millions of copies. The book is scheduled to hit the shelves in August. Elvis Presley doesn't know it yet, but this is his own obituary. This book is the bullet that will finally pierce the armor of the king. To understand how three men who loved Elvis could destroy him, we have to peel back the layers of gold and glamour. We have to go back to the beginning, before the drugs, before the paranoia, before the betrayal. We have to go back to the brotherhood. To understand the magnitude of the knife in Elvis's back, you have to understand the hands that held it. This was not a business relationship born in a boardroom in Hollywood. It was a blood oath forged in the hallways of Hume's High School in Memphis, Tennessee. Flashback to the early 1950s. Before he was the king, Elvis Presley was just a shy, awkward teenager with a weird name. He was an outsider. He wore pink slocks and black bolero shirts when everyone else wore denim. He combed his hair into a greasy, towering pompadour, while other boys kept theirs short and military neat. In the rough, working-class culture of Memphis, looking like Elvis didn't make you cool, it made you a target. The bullies were always waiting, in the locker rooms, behind the bleachers, in the bathrooms. They wanted to cut his hair. They wanted to beat the difference out of him. But they never got the chance, because standing between Elvis and the world was Robert "Red" West. Red was everything Elvis wasn't. He was a football star. He was tough, stocky, and fearless. He had a temper that could clear a room. One day, when a group of boys cornered Elvis in the bathroom with scissors, Red West stepped in. He didn't ask questions. He threw punches. On that day, a silent contract was signed. Elvis was the dreamer. Red was the shield. As Elvis skyrocketed to a level of fame the human race had never seen before, he didn't look for professional bodyguards. He didn't want ex-FBI agents or police officers who viewed him as a client. He wanted loyalty. He wanted family. He called Red, and soon after he called Red's cousin, Sonny West. Together with a few others, they formed an inner circle that the press dubbed the Memphis Mafia. But to Elvis, they were just the boys. They created their own world, sealed off from reality. They wore matching mohair suits. They wore dark sunglasses indoors. And on their fingers, they wore the ultimate symbol of their allegiance, diamond-encrusted rings with the letters TCB and a lightning bolt, taking care of business in a flash. It was a feudal system straight out of the Middle Ages. The king was the benevolent king, and these men were his knights. Their job description was everything and nothing. They were bodyguards, yes, but they were also his brothers, his drinking buddies, his movie stand-ins, and his confidants. They were the ones who vetted the girls who came up to the hotel rooms. They were the ones who carried the heavy suitcases filled with cash and pills. They were the ones who picked Elvis off the bathroom floor when the drugs hit too hard, cleaning him up before the world could see him stumble. In exchange for this absolute devotion, Elvis gave them a life they could never have imagined. Money meant nothing to Elvis. It was just paper to be given away. If Red liked a car in a showroom window, Elvis bought it for him on the spot. If Sonny needed a down payment for a house, Elvis wrote the check and added a swimming pool as a bonus. He paid for their weddings. He paid for their hospital bills. He took them around the world, flying on private jets, eating steak and lobster, living like princes in the shadow of the king. There were no contracts. There was no HR department. There were no boundaries. And that was the fatal flaw. Because when you mix friendship with payroll, the lines get blurred. Red and Sonny began to believe that this fantasy life would last forever. They believed they were entitled to it. They forgot that in a feudal system, the king has the power to give, but he also has the power to take away. By 1976, the atmosphere in the kingdom had changed. The fun was gone. The pills had turned Elvis paranoid, moody, and dangerous. He started to look at his loyal knights and see spies. He started to look at his brothers and see leeches. The bond forged in high school was stretching thin, and it was about to snap. July 13th, 1976. A date that lives in infamy in the Elvis history books. It was a Tuesday. The phone rang at the homes of Red West, Sonny West, and Dave Hebler. But the voice on the other end wasn't the warm southern drawl of the king. It was the sharp, anxious voice of his father, Vernon Presley. Vernon summoned them to a meeting, not at Graceland, but at the office. The vibe was sterile, official, cold. Vernon Presley had never liked the Memphis Mafia. He saw them as leeches. He looked at the accounting books and saw millions of dollars flowing out to support their families, their cars, and their gambling debts. He didn't see brotherhood, he saw overhead. And now, with Elvis's health declining and tour revenues becoming unpredictable, Vernon decided it was time to cut the fat. When the three men walked into the room, Vernon didn't offer them a seat, he didn't offer them a drink, he didn't look them in the eye. He simply read from a script. "You're fired," he said. "We're cutting back on expenses. Elvis doesn't need this much security anymore." The room went silent. Red West stood there stunned. He had taken punches for Elvis. He had broken bones for Elvis. He had kept Elvis's secrets for 25 years. And now he was being let go like a seasonal worker at a factory. "Does Elvis know about this?" Red asked. Vernon nodded. It was his decision. But the insult didn't stop at the firing. It was the severance. After 20 years of service, Vernon handed them a check. It wasn't a pension. It wasn't a retirement fund. It was 2 weeks' pay, a few $1,000s. That was the price of 20 years of loyalty. The boys packed their things in a daze. They felt betrayed, yes, but mostly they were in denial. They knew Elvis. They knew he was impulsive. They figured this was just another one of his mood swings. They went home and sat by their telephones. They told their weeping wives, "Don't worry, he'll call. He always calls. He can't survive on the road without us. Who's going to protect him? Who's going to get his medicine?" They waited for the phone to ring. Day 1 passed. Silence. Day 2 passed. The silence grew louder. A week passed. The phone never rang. This was the ultimate betrayal. It wasn't that Elvis fired them, it was how he did it. The man who could command an audience of 50,000 people didn't have the courage to look his best friends in the eye and say goodbye. He hid behind his father. He ghosted them. And as the weeks turned into months, reality set in. The lavish lifestyle was over. The checks stopped coming. Red and Sonny West were not rich men. They had spent their money as fast as Elvis gave it to them. They had mortgages, children, debts. They had no other skills. Former bodyguard for the king wasn't a job title that opened many doors in the real world. They were desperate, they were hurt, and they were angry. And in that moment of vulnerability, the sharks began to circle. A journalist named Steve Dunleavy approached them. He worked for The Star, a tabloid known for sensationalism. He knew the Bodyguards were broke, he knew they were bitter, and he knew they held the keys to the most guarded kingdom in the world. He made them an offer, a book deal, a massive payday. At first, they hesitated. The code of the Memphis Mafia was silence. You never talk, you never rat on the king. But then, they looked at their unpaid bills. They looked at the silence coming from Graceland. They rationalized it. They told themselves, we have to do this, not to hurt him, but to save him. If we expose the drugs, he'll be forced to get clean. We'll shock him into rehab. It was a lie they told themselves to sleep at night. Deep down, they wanted to twist the knife back. So, in October 1976, in a small motel room, Red West poured a drink, leaned into a microphone, and pressed record. The Brotherhood was dead. The expose had begun. October 1976. The tape recorder was spinning. For the first time in history, the steel curtain around Elvis Presley was lifted. Red West, Sonny West, and Dave Hebler didn't hold back. They vomited 20 years of secrets onto those tapes. They didn't just tell stories about a celebrity, they described a medical disaster. For decades, the world believed Elvis was a clean-living Southern boy. He didn't drink alcohol, he didn't smoke marijuana, he loved his mother and Jesus. But the Bodyguards revealed a different reality. Elvis didn't need street drugs, he had something better. He had doctors. They spoke about the kit, a black jewelry case that Elvis carried everywhere like a nuclear football. But inside, there were no jewels. It was a mobile pharmacy stocked with thousands of pills. They listed the menu with terrifying precision. Dilaudid for the pain, Quaaludes to sleep, Dextrendin to wake up, Amitol, Placidil, Demerol. They described a man who was chemically engineered to function. They told stories of finding the king of rock and roll face down in his soup bowl, so sedated he couldn't chew. They told stories of having to reach into his throat to pull out pills he hadn't swallowed yet, just to keep him from overdosing before a show. But the drugs were just the fuel. The behavior was the fire. Red West recounted the nights of terror at Graceland. He described Elvis's growing obsession with firearms. It wasn't a hobby, it was a sickness. Elvis slept with a pistol under his pillow and a carbine by his bed. He was convinced that assassins were coming for him. They told the now infamous story of the television sets. If a singer Elvis didn't like appeared on the screen, like Robert Goulet, Elvis wouldn't just change the channel. He would pull out a .357 Magnum and blow the screen to pieces. The glass would shatter, smoke would fill the room, and Elvis would calmly turn to his staff and say, "Buy another one." It was a display of absolute power and absolute madness. As the manuscript for Elvis, What Happened began to take shape, rumors started to leak. Word reached Graceland that the book was real and it was brutal. Elvis panicked. For the first time in his life, he couldn't sing his way out of trouble. He couldn't charm his way out. He was terrified. He knew that his entire image, the clean-cut American hero, was about to be destroyed. He tried to stop it. He didn't use lawyers. He used his heart. In a desperate move, Elvis picked up the phone and called Red West. The conversation was recorded. If you listen to that tape today, it breaks your heart. Elvis sounds slurred, heavy, and exhausted. He sounds like a man who knows he is drowning. On the tape, Elvis asks Red, "What are you guys doing? Why are you writing this?" He doesn't sound angry. He sounds hurt. He says, "I just want you to know I did the best I could." He even tried to bribe them. There were whispers of offering $50,000, maybe $100,000 to kill the project, but it was too late. The publisher, Ballantine Books, knew they had a bestseller on their hands. They smelled blood in the water. The Bodyguards justified their betrayal with a twisted logic. They claimed, "We are doing this to save his life. When he reads this book, when he sees himself through our eyes, he will be shocked into rehab." They thought the book would be a wake-up call. They didn't realize it would be a death sentence. The first boxes of the book were shipped in early August 1977. Elvis received an advance copy. He sat in his bedroom, alone, and read the words written by his brothers. He read about his overdoses. He read about his paranoia. He read about his failures. He put the book down and wept. He told his girlfriend, Ginger Alden, "My fans, they're going to hate me. Everything I worked for is gone." The psychological weight of the book crushed him. His anxiety spiked. He couldn't sleep. He took more pills to numb the shame. He ate more to numb the pain. The stress was pushing his heart to the breaking point. The countdown had begun. August 15th, 1977. The book, Elvis, What Happened, was officially on the stands. It was in supermarkets, drugstores, and airports across America. The cover, featuring Red, Sonny, and Dave standing behind Elvis, stared out from every magazine rack. Inside the walls of Graceland, Elvis was a ghost. He was scheduled to fly out the next day to Portland, Maine, to start a new tour. He had to face the crowds. He had to look into the eyes of thousands of fans and wonder, have they read it? Do they know? Do they still love me? The anxiety was eating him alive. He told his dentist that night, "I feel like my life is over. I can't go out there." He spent his final hours trying to numb that feeling. He took 3 separate packets of sedatives. He played racquetball at 4 a.m. to burn off the nervous energy. He sat at his piano and sang "Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain." And then, around noon on August 16, 1977, the king fell. He was found on the bathroom floor of the master suite. The stress, the enlarged heart, the years of chemical abuse, the engine simply stopped. The news broke across the world like a thunderclap. The king is dead. But for Red and Sonny West, the news hit differently. They heard it on the radio, and in that moment, their plan to save him crumbled into dust. They hadn't shocked him into rehab, they had pushed him into the grave. The immediate aftermath was brutal. Red and Sonny wanted to attend the funeral. They wanted to say goodbye to the man they had loved since high school. But Vernon Presley, the grieving father, sent a message that was colder than ice. "If you show up, I will have you arrested." While the world mourned, the Elvis Mafia sat at home watching the white hearse drive through the gates of Graceland on television. They were exiles. They were the villains of the story. And then came the cruelest irony of all. Before Elvis died, Elvis, What Happened, was selling moderately well. It was a scandal book. But the moment Elvis took his last breath, the book became a holy relic. It became the only document that explained why he died. Sales exploded. Millions of copies were sold overnight. Red and Sonny West became rich men. The blood money they had been promised finally arrived, but it came at a price no check could cover. For the rest of their lives, they lived with the shadow. They were the men who betrayed Caesar. They were the Judas to the king. Years later, Sonny West would cry in interviews, swearing that they only wanted to help him. But history is written by the survivors, and the fans never forgave them. So, what is the true legacy of this story? It's a tragedy of silence. Elvis couldn't speak to his friends, so he fired them. The friends couldn't speak to Elvis, so they wrote a book. And in that gap of silence, the greatest entertainer of the 20th century fell through the cracks. The book was titled Elvis, What Happened? But in the end, we all know the answer. A broken heart happened. Betrayal happened. The king died alone. And that is the untold legacy.